Welcome to the We Are One podcast. Today, MJ and Kay Shizzle are going to be talking about Roko, Basilisk, and we're going to cite Jason Brashears from the Archaix channel. I'm going to let this play a little bit. It'll give you a little bit of a heads up of what this is, and then we'll talk about it and how it plays at home for me. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Thank you.
So
Let's go.
Introduces these resets. It introduces timeline manipulation, gremlins. What I mean by gremlins is this what they used to be called when objects were moved and you know damn well you left the object in a certain area. Keys were displaced to keep you from getting somewhere on time. It introduces NPCs. The whole NPC phenomenon is now explainable in Roko's Basilisk. The Basilisk is the artificial intelligence. Guys, I am introducing to you guys the idea that scientists are already on board with artificial intelligence X. They've only packaged it in a different way. Just like Fermi's paradox. They have packaged it by boxing themselves in. They still clinging to that materialism, that this world is a material phenomenon. They're still clinging to that. Therefore, their conclusions have to maintain that integrity. I don't have to do that though, because I understand that this world is a construct. I don't have to maintain that. I don't have to believe their lies. And you don't either. Roko's Basilisk is something you may want to Google. There's a lot of elements I'm probably not mentioning.
So we're going to share this thing. So we can break it down. So Roko's Basilisk. MJ, you want to hit it? You got something there you want to talk about? The definition?
Nah, because
okay.
Yeah, go for it. I'll jump in.
So it's Roko's Basilisk is a thought experiment that posits that the creation of AI will lead to an AI future which will punish anyone retroactively who did not help bring it into existence. I'm not sure I fully get that one, how it's going to retroactively punish anyone. But all right, so
it's going to time travel back in the past before it was created. But if it's created, I guess, and we're just throwing ideas.
We're just talking about it. We don't fully understand it.
If it's created, then why would it go back in the past to do anything? It's already created. So what is it? If you're already created, what do you need to go back in the past to do if you exist at that moment? I mean, I guess I don't get the time travel aspect. If you're already an all-powerful AI.
Yeah, if you already rose to power, why would you get upset with memory? Right. I mean, does AI now have memories and it have emotions? I mean, is it truly, that would be really sentient?
Yeah, I mean, it will make more sense if it didn't become all powerful and okay, we're gonna go back and correct what didn't get us there. But if it's already all powerful, then why you need to go back in the past? You already.
Yeah. See, I didn't really understand the part he was talking about, the gremlins physically moving stuff. So is that what he said happened in my cable box? I mean, there are retroactively gremlins that can move stuff in the present and materialize out of thin air. I'm not sure. I might have to look at some more data for that. What he's talking about. But the Fermi's paradox, we all know that is the paradox that says aliens don't exist based on the theory because we have not been presented with them. They're not existent in our reality, so therefore they don't exist. So this is all case for simulation theory, obviously. And what was interesting to me about what he said about the Roko Basilisk gremlins is that actually is what started me thinking that this was a simulation. If things can manifest and appear and disappear out of my own physical reality, then what in the hell is going on? And that really started me down the rabbit hole of solipsism and am I creating this whole thing? Is it a dream world? That is the basis. That's literally the basis of why I'm sitting here today, doing this and talking about it. So when I heard him say that today, I was very interested in that. Let me see if I can pull something. If you want to say something, go ahead. I'm going to try to find something on the other tab.
Yeah. So so you went through different phases. Have you come to any concrete conclusions, or do you have more of a feeling of what this is, or is more questions coming up now that you?
I think I have a pretty good grasp upon it. So when that happened, I was looking at Dark Night of the Soul. Do I exist? I looked at Descartes. I think therefore I am, what exactly he meant by saying that. I looked at the Buddha sitting under the tree, wondering what suffering was and how to end suffering. And then it left me into this other world where I thought, nothing is real. And then, so I'm looking around going, if I'm creating all of this, then nothing is real. Very lonely feeling. From there, I did think about the Buddhists, and I came to the conclusion that if I was creating this, then I was alive and I am thinking. And if I am doing that, then I have an option. I can either crawl into a hole and just say, okay, I figured it out, or I can use that to my advantage, or change my thought process and say, okay, this is where I am. This is what I have to work with. Can I make this peaceful? Can I make this, a journey, one that I want to create? And if I can do that, then what does that mean? What can I manifest? What can I ultimately perceive through my eyes? What can I prove to myself? Because that's, in the end, we're not here to prove it to anybody. I'm not here to tell somebody that they believe me, that this cable box appeared out of nowhere, or these packages appeared out of nowhere with my name on them. I'm not here to show people, these symbols that appear to me in my car. I'm not here to prove any of this to anybody. So you wanna figure that out? I mean, I got pyramids formulating in my car windows when it gets foggy outside. So I'm not here to prove any of this to anybody. I really don't care. I really don't know what's going on. I'm just here observing it and trying to make sense of it. I was supposed to have a phone call today about possibly employment or work or whatever, and I haven't been looking. I'm not really interested in doing that. I'm not at a point that I have to. Some stuff came to me money-wise and my manifestation, and I'd like to see, if it goes up the same thought process that I had in college. When we met each other, we were in college. I had a thought sitting in one of my classes that no matter what I do, I'm going to get through this. So I could not study and pass a test, or I could study my rear end off and fail a test. It's all the same outcome to me. It's not going to change anything. So one semester, as I went to a university with you, I decided I was not going to buy any books. I said, okay, let's do this thought experiment. I'm going to buy no books. And I was a junior in business school in a major university, and I said, I'm not buying any books because this is what's going to happen regardless. So let's see if I can pass this semester without buying any books. And I did. I don't think I didn't ace anything, but obviously I didn't know some things that weren't in those books that I probably could have helped me on some tests. But I've had a couple of those experiences where I have had those epiphanies, like it doesn't matter what's going to happen, and it's just going to happen regardless. You have any of those things happen to you where you thought about something and you're like, this is kind of crazy, but let's go ahead and do it. Let's roll with it.
Yeah. Not to that extreme. I mean, I had to study in college, and so, but I think there's a degree of if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There's some of that, and then I think we play an active part in it too. I mean, you couldn't have passed those classes if you just didn't go to them. Right? You still had to take the test. You still had to show up. I mean, you just couldn't just not.
No, I don't think the essay ones I was going to pass. Right. I mean, there had to be some level of understanding in those classes that I had not been familiar with. Although I definitely took a class when I was in or took a SAT prep course that told you how to educatingly guess. So you would learn how to guess. You would eliminate answers and you would do it. And I'm pretty conscious of that when I'm taking tests or when I was taking tests. I think it's like a 2% chance of passing the real estate exam on the first time. I mean, me and my wife took it. We both passed. Chances of that aren't that good, but it's a test. That's the last test I took probably about 10 years ago for the real estate exam. And I don't practice real estate. It was one of those things that I was interested in and I wanted to go ahead and do it. So I'm like, okay, let's roll with that. I'll take that challenge. One of the first memories that I have, whether it's from this existence or not this existence, is, sitting in what I would visualize or try to describe it as sitting in space, looking at this planet, like a lot of the pictures we see from space, like a blue marble. And that's probably the first memory I've ever had. I'm not sure when I had it, but I'm trying to describe to my parents or to my mom specifically what this feels like, this infinite feeling of non-existence, and just sitting there in knowing when you're dead or when you're not alive anymore. What does that feel like? That's forever. There's no time frame for that. So that was one of the first memories I've ever had. And I've always had this feeling that I've always had this saying in my head, is written in the stars. So can't really explain that. Always felt like that meant something to me. Like I was supposed to remember something, like I'm just actively participating in something that's already happened. My awareness is here, but there's nothing that I can do to change it. I can just change the emotions that are tied to these situations. And up until about 3 years ago, I probably felt like, almost 4 years ago now, I felt like I couldn't change anything. I thought I was pretty much stuck in this situation where crazy things would happen and I would just be a victim to whatever happened. And, whether it was good or bad. And now I feel like I'm actually creating my life for the first time, the last 3 or 4 years. So with that, I'm trying to create the best life that I can. I'm trying to manifest things through thought, like God did the first few days, through his thought, then through intention, then through action. Those are the recycling things that just keep coming through my head. Like if I can think it, it can happen. We have to take action, of course. But what action do we have to take? Is that action already done? Is it just us walking through those steps? And so that leads me to, sitting here right now, like, what did I want to accomplish by doing this? I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't really like, looking at myself on screen, for sure. But this is something that I wanted to do because my ego told me don't do it. So, trying to dissolve your ego to create, you have to break pattern. And that's one of the things I like about Jason the most, is that Jason talks about breaking pattern to be able to create and to break free of what he calls archons or the simulation AIX. Is you have to break pattern. You're comfortable doing some certain things and you're probably fine doing them. But in the end, if you don't break pattern and break that informed field, then it's going to always be able to reprogram you and suck you back into doing the same old things. So that's what I'm here doing. I'm here to see what I can create. I'm pretty sure at no point in my life that I want to be sitting here doing a podcast or talking on the microphone. But I'm here and I'm going to see what I can create from this.
So I'm curious, why do you think your ego told you not to do it?
I don't know. I mean, I guess people would speculate that it would be because the chances of me succeeding would be X percentage or whatever it is. But the way I look at it is my ego doesn't know what my intentions are. It can try to keep me from breaking pattern But my intention isn't to do this to make $1 million or to be on, like Joe Rogan or nothing like that. That's not my intention. My intention is to get answers that I can no longer get through just watching YouTube videos. I have to converse. I have to talk to people. I have to bring new people into my field, into my awareness, whether it's linking up from people, from a past life, maybe through Atlantis or Lemuria. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I haven't had those memories of that. But I have to break free, and for me to find answers, this is what I got to do. I got to talk to people. I got to get outside my comfort zone, so to speak, and ask the questions that I ask, that I want to ask these people, and have these conversations. Obviously, I mean, I already did. So I'm gonna tell y'all today. I've been talking for like the last probably 10 minutes straight, MJ. But I texted you earlier and was like, "Hey, you want to jump on tonight?" I had no idea what we're going to talk about, and I think this is going to be a pretty cool talk. In that, just talking about what did I want to do with this podcast or with this channel or with my intention. I'm creating as I go. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do this morning. I don't have a 9 to 5. I don't have anywhere to be. But Chad from Open Your Reality, Chad on our channel, our We Are One channel, called me this morning and was like, "Hey, I got a question for you. I'm interviewing Aaron Apke in 1 hour." And I don't even know if Chad saw the guest live draft that we did, but Aaron Apke was my number 2 guest. And, Chad went in on that conversation about some future guests, but I'm pretty sure if I didn't have this channel, he wouldn't have called me and said anything to that effect, because our relationship isn't necessarily based on the channel. It's a friendship aside of the channel. But I got to write down and talk through with, one of my favorite channels on YouTube, to interview a guest and ask my questions to him that I would ask him. That wouldn't have manifested. That couldn't have taken place, me sitting in front of my television taking no action, not breaking free. So he's supposed to be posting this interview pretty shortly, which is why he's not on tonight, I think. But I'm super excited to hear the answers to the questions that I was proposing for Chad to postulate and to ask him. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Do you have the questions? Is that something you're willing to share?
Yeah. Let me. I can tell you a couple of the questions I have. Of course, I got it in my notes. And with all disclaimer with this Chad's interview. So if he doesn't ask them this way, that's fine. He was typing them as we went. But so Aaron Apke is a lot of the Law of One. And I said, listen, I have never heard him talk about some of the things that common folk talk about with struggle, with suffering. I've not heard his story about suffering, because I think that everyone has a foundation, an origin of why we are here doing this. Whether it's watching YouTube, whether it's watching people, whether it's listening to people talk about stuff, there's a reason. For me, it was health that I dove down the rabbit hole to find out what we could do as human beings. And that is what awakened me. But I've not heard Aaron talk about his story of why he jumped down the hole that he went to, and the theories that he's at. I've never heard him talk about anything except for being very clear-minded and being very even keel. And this is the reason for this, and this is the reason for this. And we have to do this. So I'm interested to see what he does when he's kicked out of balance, and how he recenters himself. Does he face the same challenges that we face? Living in the spiritual realm, and being centered and being at peace, and then you jump in the traffic, so to speak, behind the wheel of a car, and people are cutting you off, and people are cursing at you and jumping in line and being rude in Walmart and stuff, and that's what we deal with. So I've not heard him talk about those kind of things. So that was one of the questions that I had for him. Is how does he stay in his lane and not get sucked into the rabbit holes of, also like the cabal and the Illuminati and all the evil stuff that we perceive going on. How does he stay out of those lanes, out of those rabbit holes? I asked a question about solipsism. Again, I kind of talked about it from my standpoint, how I got into those levels to be there. And did he ever consider that? And how did he move on from it if he did? Asked him about manifestation. Do you think it's been hijacked in this new wave spirituality cult? The secret, the law of one. The secret, the law of attraction. The truth of creating physical from the intention. That's what manifestation really is at its core. And how does he see that? How does he access that? How does he teach that? Also asked if he believes in reincarnation, which he obviously does through the law of one with channeling. Can we access our prior memories? Where are they? And how can those prior memories assist our evolution and our experience in our life? I asked if he believes that everyone, or asked Chad to ask him if he believes everyone has a divine spark or a soul. What does he think of DNA, human cloning, and NPCs? And does he think that everyone who's either an NPC or are there people at different categories, different levels, do they have souls? And then the last question I had for him was, has he ever heard of the Galactic Federation of Light, which seems to be like these people coming out of the woodwork talking about, the Pleiadians and the Dracos and the lizards, like the reptilians. So the Galactic Federation is supposed to be those people that come out of somewhere, they're deities or entities, and they protect us or they harm us, they hijack us. I asked him I would want to know if he's heard of this federation and if he believes that the Galactic Federation is, lack of a better term, not a physical property, meaning that they're only accessible to us through astral travel and through hypnosis and those kind of things, or are they really people up in space?
Are they really out there?
Yeah, I mean, is space really space? Or is it just something that we can't imagine dimensionally that exists? So, I respect his opinion. He seems to be at complete peace with what he knows and what he's looking for. One of the things that I asked Chad about is, do you think that he is, he's found peace, obviously. Is he looking for truth, or did he stop there at peace? And I haven't heard anyone rattle him at all or get him out of his comfort zone for answers. Again, he's very even keeled. I respect the hell out of him for him, just maintaining dignity and doing what he does, serving people, trying to help people. I think he is anyway, and I respect that because I think he's genuine. So those were my questions that I had, and we'll see if he can answer some of those or Chad has any time in his hour to ask him. And then I asked him also, I said, hey, let him know that we have a podcast with group discussion, and is he cool with coming out for a group discussion? Not a inquisitive kind of thing, but pick a subject and talk about it. So we'll see what he says to that stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty close to your number 2 pick. I mean, that's a
little bit for Danica. If I can get Danica, she's number 4. Actually, I think I had Kanye as 4. Well, who did I pick as number 4? Oh no, the Simpsons people. I think they were number 3 or 4. There's a lot of Simpsons writers. Have you seen that? When you Google it, there's been a lot of writers over the years for that.
Yeah, the only one I know is Matt Groening. That's the only name that jumps to mind for me. So
yeah, there's a bunch of other ones, and then there's also I sent you that clip, that Kobe Bryant. You saw that one? The Kobe in the Simpsons helicopter. It was the Simpsons.
That was the Simpsons.
Oh yeah, it was Simpsons. Yeah.
Because that animation does not look. They must have just changed up the animation for that one, man. Because Simpsons has a specific look to them, and maybe they just did that one like that on purpose. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I Googled it, so I typed in Kobe Bryant Simpsons death, and that's what came up. And it said Simpsons on it. It wasn't like it said, related to this. But yeah, the part of the animation was like, hey, Kobe, you're going down and, give up pass them championships. And Kobe was like, I ain't passing.
Right.
He went down with the fire in the helicopter with that. So Simpsons it was.
Yeah, they hit some stuff on the head pretty much. They've been pretty accurate. Give them that. So it does make you wonder. makes you wonder if they know some, or again if it's predictive programming. But
yeah, or if it's been written in the stars. Go back to that for a second. If this is all something that we're just all experiencing. So we'll talk with we have an interview. We have our first interview, our podcast discussion. It will not be live, I don't think, with Chris Sinatra, the quantum businessman. He'll be talking to him on Sunday at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I think I got it in my notes, but interested to talk about that. Not just Mandela effect talk. We're going to talk about the observer effect and objective reality, which is a scientifically studied and observed phenomenon that goes through. So double slit experiment kind of thing. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody sees it, did it ever fall? That kind of observer effect and objective reality. Mr. Michael MJ here and Chad have spoken out about objective reality, saying that there is a baseline objective reality. And I disagree with that, being that it's a simulation. But we're going to talk about it with Chris Sinatra. So that's going to be cool.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, yeah, I still argue that there may be some fluctuation even on the quantum level of some things, but it would be very difficult to have any type of consistency if there was huge variations in objective reality. I think on many levels, just sports, for instance, is just a simple example. If everyone's goalpost was different, everyone's yard line was different. You wouldn't be able
but if there's something to the effect of the 100 monkey effect, I mean, if there's something to that, which means basically if enough people realize that they have the same objective reality, then it becomes accepted into the core. So, I don't know anything. I just have a theory about certain things and what seems to make sense to me as far as the theories that I believe, what makes the most sense for those. I'm not ruling nothing out. Nobody's incorrect about anything. Yeah. I'm just here to discover.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept. Like you say, if a tree falls, does it make a noise if no one hears it? Or does it fall if no one sees it or whatever, right?
Is the tree, the question isn't does the tree fall, does the tree exist if no one sees it? The tree, to me, doesn't exist. If we're all ones and zeros and codes, and the observer effect is if that is true, if that is substantiated, then there is no observer and there is no effect unless it's rendered, and that's my point of view from that.
Yeah, and I get the experiment, but I would argue that it's rendered to the point to where it's in that same point. So, for instance, whatever's behind me, I can't see it now. So, I mean, you can see it, right? I can't see it. And so, in my experience, is not rendered. But when I look at it to render it, it's going to render in that spot. It's going to render there and there. Yeah, it's not, this isn't going to go here and there. It's going to be.
Well, I mean, unless if a gremlin moves it, like Jason Brashears said, the gremlins can move stuff. And if they're really in charge of this simulation, I mean, they could do whatever they wanted. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of manifesting, as far as that is concerned, to affect physical matter. Now, I don't know who would manifest those pictures to be moved behind you when you're not looking, but that seems like a waste of intention because it's an irrelevant effect to me. But I certainly, it would certainly, help explain the Mandela effect. So, I don't know. I don't know how that's viewed.
Yeah, well, he knows a lot more about Mandela effects than I do, and he kept up with them. So it'd be interesting to hear some of the latest and greatest on that, because that is some interesting stuff. There's definitely some stuff I remember that they say didn't happen or happened differently. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that everything's a Mandela effect just because we remembered it differently. I mean, there is a lot of false memory associated with that. The biggest one that I can think of is the Oscar Mayer one. People thinking Oscar Mayer was spelled Meyer. I'm like, did they never fucking sing the song? I mean, my baloney has a first name, Oscar. My baloney has a second name, it's Mayer. Did they not sing that song? Like, I mean, that's not a Mandela effect. Come on now, stop it.
So you don't agree with that?
It can't be, because then the song wouldn't exist. Now, I'm not saying that there's no chance that is what it is, because again, I don't know anything. I'm just here observing. But if that's the case, then there was never a song in this timeline. If that's the case, or in the other timeline, because in my timeline, I guess is what people are saying. My timeline, it's Mayer, and it's never changed, because it couldn't have changed if the song was like that. I mean, you could sing the song differently. That's possible. I'd like to know if someone thinks it's Meyer, which that's how you spell Meyer, in Jewish culture. I mean, typically it's Meyer. So I'm not saying that they're incorrect, but Oscar Mayer was never spelled like that in my timeline, and I don't know how they could say that it was spelled the other way.
But don't they still have the song? Like, couldn't you play the song now and it'll say?
Well, of course you could, and that's one of the things that's really mess with your head, is that when those things go away, all that goes away. So if it switches back to Meyer, and we're still talking about this, and we're like, why are they saying it's Mayer? What song is he talking about? Okay, that's no song. Then it's gonna really be like, okay, so what just happened? What just changed that now there's no more song and there's no more spelling like that, but millions of people will remember the song and how it was spelled the same way that I just remembered it and said it. So if it changes back, then it's a whole different situation, obviously.
Yeah, I think one of the things he talked, I don't know if that's him or somebody else was talking about. Does he talk about the residue?
Yes,
yeah. Okay. Because that's
residue,
like you got the main thing.
There's residue going out there. And again, I don't know what residue there is for Oscar Mayer spelling Meyer. To me, there's no residue that says that. Therefore, it's not a Mandela effect to me. In my opinion, I'm not saying to me as in I understand that. I'm saying as in my opinion. But there's tons of residue. The Monopoly guy with the monocle has tons of residue. The Jungle Book, Baloo's Bikini, there's tons of residue for that. There's tons of residue for all this stuff. Those are legitimate. When you see residue, that's a legitimate Mandela effect to me. When there's no residue, it's just misremembering. People are like, oh, Meyer spelled Meyer. Why? Well, I know a coach named Urban Meyer, and he spells it Meyer. I've seen it a million times. So Oscar Mayer, no, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, maybe it'd be a question that we can ask him when he comes on. But what is he attributed to?
He thinks it's switching timelines or timeline parallel timelines. So the question is, when did it start? So when did it start is one of these things that we don't know, right? I mean, we don't know when the first Mandela effect. We think it's Nelson Mandela. That's what people remember because they think he died, in jail. But that's not probably the first ever Mandela effect. Likely, it's just the first documented one. The internet was around, and you could research. Nope, he didn't die in prison. On a timeline that we're living in now. So, that would be, that's always the fallback point. Unless somebody wrote down in a book, I thought Nelson Mandela died, and they wrote it down before that or whatever. I don't know. I started typing up some Mandela effects today and reasons, and I started thinking, maybe it's possible that the archons changed in 2012 or whenever that year was, that all these Mandela effects happened. So the Archon trying to tell you a message. So instead of them saying, Luke, no, I am your father, they're actually saying no, no, I am your father. Like, no more. There's no more God in this thing. We are going to shift. Like the monocle thing, I was trying to play it out like, we got rid of that. Now you guys can all see the truth. We're clear vision. There was a lot of them that I got to go through that actually I can make sense of. Now it doesn't make sense to everyone probably, but it makes sense for me trying to stick it like, are the people governing this world, if there are archons or if there's AIX, that if the God changed, and I don't mean God isn't like God and evil. I mean God isn't like the gods that created this simulation or this Earth or whatever. So if they changed, they relinquish power. When there's a new regime, shit changes. So maybe they're trying to just tell us, listen, I not only control the future, I control the past and your memories too. That's my take.
And do you equate the AIX with the Archons? Do you think they're kind of similar?
I think it's the same thing, just different called something different. I think Jason also calls them the demiurge. These are all biblical terms: archons, demiurge. He calls it AIX because he thinks it's actually artificial intelligence. He doesn't think that it's interdimensional. But some of the soul trap stuff probably is more interdimensional than it is, artificial intelligence. I mean, unless you could probably speculate that our consciousness is not fundamental to the Earth, but it's fundamental to like electricity, magnetism or something, electromagnetism, and that if they control the magnetic field above the Earth, then now they can control your soul or your consciousness. That's possible, as far as how I can speculate that. That would be the only way that AI could control the soul trap, in my opinion, speculating that out.
Yeah, and maybe it's a conversation for another episode, but one of the things is I think we tend to talk about high-level concepts. Is there an intention to, because you mentioned before, about things that people can prove to themselves, as far as getting some more tangible things,
evidence.
Yeah, more things that could apply to people's everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
That tools they can use themselves. What are the things we control? If there is an AIX or an archonic force or whatever, I mean, I don't know how much impact we can have on that other than talking about it or whatever.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, probably my favorite guy right now to listen to talk is Howdy McCoskey. Trying not to say his name incorrectly because he just corrected himself for somebody. But he talks about, breaking free of the soul trap and stuff. And he's one of those guys that's playing around with this. So he said in an interview, I think it was a week ago. I have to find the interview for you. Maybe I can patch it in. But he said that he believes that everything in here is rendered, the same way that I'm saying that it's rendered. So he said he's proved it to himself. He goes out in the middle of the day for no reason now, and nobody's around. He goes, and then he starts walking, and he's timing it. He goes down he ran down an alley that he had never been down before, and he's like, I'm gonna prove this. So he runs down the alley as fast as he can, and nobody's there. Like nobody's there in the middle of like the day. He said, and then he just sat there and timed it. And he's like, and like 9 minutes later or whatever, he said, everyone came out at the same time. And he's like, well, imagine that. Like, y'all are right on time. So he was trying to play with that. I'll have to see if I can patch that in his conversation. But that was interesting that he said that, because I had never tried to do that. But it is breaking pattern. And that goes back to what I said and what I believe is my theory right now, is that if you want to get away from the Matrix or the AIX or the rulers of this world, just break pattern. Just break pattern. Have the intention that whatever comes into your mind, do it. Don't think about, got to be at work at 9 o'clock or whatever it is. Like if you missed work, what would happen? Are you going to get fired? Maybe not. Probably not. I mean, nowadays, definitely not. But like do things that are breaking pattern. And what you're doing is you're actually creating a different reality for yourself and manifesting a different stream. And I believe that 100%. So I'll put that out there. That's how I broke pattern. But I hope y'all enjoyed this. Appreciate it. We'll try to come back with another one before the Chris Sinatra interview. My higher self wants you to remember to seek truth, surrender, and let go. Until next time. Peace.
Peace.